There we go. Welcome to Breeze Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm John Donnarumma, and our two analysts are Jimmy Parco and Nick Focarazzo. In these podcasts, we're going to be exploring a bunch of different topics, different players, and different draft strategies that we're going to be using this upcoming year. We encourage all of our followers and fans to follow us across all of our platforms and ask any questions that you may have. Today, we're going to get it started with the running back dead zone. The running back dead zone, in our eyes, is anyone from Darrell Henderson at the 20 spot in ADPs all the way down until Melvin Gordon at 32. What we want to figure out is how you guys approach this running back dead zones. Do you try and have your running back set before this dead zone, or is there someone in this zone that stands out to you that you're going to take in this zone? So I'll leave it up to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm kind of just avoiding this area. I'm usually a guy who likes to go like RB heavy pretty early. I'll get like, first 3 rounds, I'll probably grab 2. So then, because if you look at like, I'm going to go like for the entire draft. If you look, there's guys like, let me try to find, so look, you got Jacobs at 38 overall. Just between him and Gaskin, you've got Robert Woods, you've got Julio Jones, you've got Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin, Cooper Kupp, like Deontay Johnson, all in between Gaskin.
Those are low wide receiver ones. Those are
all good wide receiver, borderline wide receiver 1-2s kind of guys.
Yep.
You could even go, you got Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson. If you want to go tight end, you've got Kyle Pitts, you've got Mark Andrews, you've got TJ Hawkinson at 59. And then like even during the dead zone, you've got Dak Prescott, DJ Moore, Aaron Rodgers, Brandon Ayuk, Wilson and Herbert. Like there's just a ton of guys that I would rather take there than an RB and just like settling for an RB. So me personally, I'm just kind of staying away. There are a couple of players that I kind of like, but like just based on my draft strategy, I'm kind of staying away.
Yeah, I think mostly in this range, you're just not going to find a 3-down back. I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory. The later you get into the rounds of drafts, the running backs are just not going to have that kind of role. But there are, like Jimmy said, there are a couple guys that I would target, have upside, like ETN, Javonte Williams, guys like that, the rookies. They'll have some upside later in the season once they get a bigger role. But like Jimmy says, his strategy because of this dead zone is go RB heavy. However, if all of your league mates are going RB heavy, receivers that can fall to you, you can get insane value on those wide receivers, those high-end elite guys. Like if everyone's going RB heavy and you get Hill mid-second round, that's a steal. So I wouldn't say you have to go RB heavy, but because of this dead zone, it is a good strategy. But if all of your league mates do that and you get great value at the receiver position, you got to pounce on that value.
Yeah, because I know, like me personally, I like to go RB heavy, but then like you said, like if I'm getting Tyreek Hill or Devontae Adams or somebody in the mid-second, and then I end up going receivers early and I have to settle, I just wouldn't want one of these guys as my RB1 or RB2. But like as my flex, I would take them. If I have to grab a Darrell Henderson or Kareem Hunt or somebody like that as my flex, I'm fine with that. But like as my RB2, I'm a little iffy. But that's just me. That's just the way I like to construct my teams. I'd rather have like the solid RB1, RB2 combo before I start to like play around with the flex kind of guys.
Yeah, I think this year, especially because just the position scarcity with the running backs, I think you need one with your first 2 picks. It's kind of, you need it.
Yeah.
However,
or else you're not going to get a 3-down back as your running back 1.
Yeah, but
and that's just something you can't win with.
Yeah, in a lot of mocks I've been doing, I've been implementing the strategy of punting my RB2, where I take a top 10 running back in my eyes, and then I just load up on receiver and tight end. Then if I do that, I'll get my flex before everyone else. Yes, the flex is a receiver, but this year, since the position is so deep at receiver, that flex position gives me a slight edge on the other people who might
because you're getting value,
like you say, who might take a Myles Gaskin in their
Your
flex.
flex will be 2 to 3 points higher than everybody else's
Yeah, you
flex
could end up
per
with a
game.
top 15 receiver in your flex while
Yeah,
everybody else has like a top 20, 25
exactly.
running
If
back.
I
Yeah.
have if someone has a Gaskin in their flex, and I come out with like a Deontay Johnson, a Robert Woods, Mari Cooper, those kind of guys in that kind of range, I have an edge on those kind of people.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I won a
100%.
league last year where it was 2 receiver and the flex, and I had Devontae Adams, Allen Robinson already there, and then my flex was Robert Woods, and I won that league. And
Exactly.
on my bench too, I had Chase Claypool, I had somebody else too, but like my receivers were deep, and I won that league. I think my RBs were Josh Jacobs, and I literally like cycled in my RB2. It was like J.D. McKissick on my championship week. Like Myles Gaskin, I think was running with James Robinson. That was my RB2 most of the year, but he got hurt at the end. So like RB heavy is a good way to construct your team to start, and it's the way I like to do it. But like, don't be afraid to take receivers if there's still some RBs available. Don't be afraid to go grab a receiver during that RB dead zone or even before, just because receivers are valued for some reason. They're valued worse than RBs because of pass catching, I guess. But at that point, take the best player available, and 9 times out of 10, it'll probably be a receiver during that dead zone. So I wouldn't be afraid to target those kind of guys.
Who is somebody at the back end of this kind of running back dead zone that maybe you hope falls to you in let's say the 6th or 7th round? Is there a guy like Michael Carter, a Damien Harris, a Kareem Hunt?
I was just gonna say.
Is there someone who you're hoping?
Yeah.
Is there someone like Damien Harris who you're hoping falls to you at a later round like that?
Yeah, at this back end, the RB dead zone in that range, I'm a big fan of Trey Sermon and Michael Carter because their upside. I'll start with Sermon. So he is in the most run favorable offense in the league. He has an insane offensive line. He has a potential insane rookie that has rushing upside, so they can implement an option offense.
A lot of play action, a lot of options.
Their defense is really
the defense, the weapons they have in the passing game.
Right,
it's just
positive game script.
He's going to have positive game script for Trey Sermon.
Shanahan likes to run the ball. It's the most run favorable offense in the league. And then you have Michael Carter, who might start the season as the RB1 in that offense. And I think that offense takes a step this year with Zach Wilson. I think he's a pretty good prospect out of the draft.
And some additions to the offensive line also.
Yeah, exactly. The Jets offensive line is
Mekhi Becton's
decent.
Yeah, significantly better than what it was the last 2 or 3 years.
So and Michael Carter definitely has that pass catching ability. I just think those two guys at this back end of the dead zone. Honestly, if you implement the strategy of you're punting your RB2, I personally wouldn't even mind having one of these guys as my RB2 because just the upside that they have.
Yeah. For me, I'd rather take them from my bench because the way I like to do my teams is like I'll fill out the starting lineup, and then when I go my bench, I'll grab like one receiver who can slot in during bye weeks or something like that I know I'm going to get consistent production from, even if it's not like at a super high level. And then I'll get like somebody where they have like a ton of upside, like a Michael Carter or a Trey Sermon. I would definitely grab those guys. Like those guys at the end of the dead zone, definitely would grab them. I think at that point, I'd rather them on my bench than in my lineup just to start the season. But they absolutely have the talent and they have the opportunity to be solid RB2s, in the middle of the season, even before. It could be the first couple of weeks they tend to break out. Because if you look at Sermon, he's got Raheem Mostert ahead of him. Dude's always injured.
Yeah,
he's always injured.
He's going to get hurt.
That's like a perfect that plus run heavy plus good defense, meaning positive game scripts. They're going to run the ball and they're going to see the field more. The offense is going to see the field more. It's literally a perfect storm for Trey Sermon to break out as a solid RB2, even better. So I would definitely grab him. And like you said, Michael Carter, that offense is going to take a step. Another guy that I like, as I mentioned earlier, Damien Harris. I like Damien Harris. I know Belichick wants to use him more as a 3-down back. I've seen a lot out of camp of him that he's been doing well. Even in the limited action he had last year, I don't think he finished the whole year. I think he was hurt for a little bit.
Yeah.
He was like a solid RB2 flex. And this is a Patriots offense that was very limited in the pass game. Cam Newton was not doing very much through the air.
No.
And they really didn't upgrade their receivers too much. I know they brought in Smith and Henry, tight ends. They brought in Aguilar. Not a huge upgrade unless you bring in Mac Jones, who's probably a better passer right now than Cam Newton is. I think they're still going to lean on that run game. James White is there to take away some of the receiving work. But I think with Damien Harris, you're really looking for straight touchdowns, straight rushing totals. He might factor in a little bit in the passing game, but he's a guy I could see that if he gets enough of a workload, 18 to 20 touches a game, he could turn that into RB2 season. So he's another guy that I like that's kind of going at the end of that dead zone.
Yeah, and that's a big part of this running back dead zone is will those guys get those touches? Like you said, if Damien Harris's guy gets 18 touches, he's a great running back to flex to have, especially in bigger leagues. But, it's all about who you think is going to get those touches and who you think is going to perform well with those touches.
And it's the same thing with like Javonte Williams. I mean, he's another really talented back, a lot of opportunity there. He just has to get, the right amount of touches, the right amount of work, win that starting job. And then he could easily be an RB2, probably even an RB1. I think he's that good. It's just a matter of when was he going to get that opportunity if he does, And that's with a lot of these guys.
Will it be this year, or will you just, kind of have him on your team and kind of just watch him be an RB2 and not get
will
those
he
touches?
Split like Philip Lindsay did last year with Melvin Gordon?
Correct. That's yes.
And that's going to be something that's going to come out in the first 2 or 3 weeks. We're really going to get a look at how they want to start off the season, how they want to split these backfields. But I think you'd rather have them on your team than not, while they're figuring that out, especially if they're going to be on your bench. Just grab a guy who can slot in as your RB2 and then have them on the bench. And, worst case, they just flip if they go off at the end of the year. So, definitely some players you could target there. Just make sure you get the right value. Don't reach on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, Nick, you said that you've seen your drafts or your mocks this year where you kind of go those wide receivers for that flex spot. Now, and you said you don't mind a guy like Michael Carter or Trey Sermon as your running back too. Is there somebody who you don't mind having as your running back too? Let's say a Myles Gaskin falls to you or a Chase Edmunds or a Kareem Hunt. And let's say you're debating on whether or not you take that flex. So let's say it's a Deontay Johnson or Robert Woods. Is there somebody higher in that dead zone that you might take over receiver as a running back too? Or are you still pretty strong on that flex receiver?
I mean, the issue is when you get higher up in this dead zone, when you get to the beginning of the dead zone, the players, their roles are almost definite. Like you said, Kareem Hunt, he's just going to be catching passes. He's not going to get the goal line work. Chubb's
he's going to be kicking the field goals after the goal line work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's like Chase Edmunds too. He's kind of the same thing. You don't know that kind of role with what it's going to be with James Conner. Conner might get the goal line work. Edmunds will be in the passing game, but that might only be what he's going to do. I mean, I like Edmunds in that range. I would take him if he falls.
Yeah, but does he have the volume to perform as a running back too in that
exactly
spot?
It's just they're just complete. Those kind of guys are just solely pass catching backs. They are valuable in PPR, but they're not gonna score the touchdowns, as many touchdowns as some of the other guys. Whereas players like Sermon and Carter, their upside is through the roof, in my opinion. They can significantly, like players like that can significantly outperform their ADP, where players like Hunt and Edmunds might not have that kind of upside.
Gotcha. All right, let's move into a first round draft pick. This is someone I've seen picked all the way up at 4, and I've seen someone picked all the way up at the 11 or 12 spot in 12-man leagues, almost the beginning of the second round in 10 or 8-man leagues. Saquon Barkley. Where do you guys take him? Is he someone you take at 6 or 7, or is he's someone you pass 6 or 7 and you hope maybe you get at 9, 10, or 11?
All right, I'll start. So with Saquon, I think we can all agree that he is the riskiest first round draft pick this year. And with your first round pick, you don't want risk. You want to limit risk.
That's something I think we've all agreed upon is your first round pick should be someone whose floor you are happy with. And
that should be the guy you're building your team around pretty much.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You want to limit risk with your first round pick. With that being said, Saquon Barkley. He is athletic. He is an insane athlete, but it's looking like he will miss time in the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
So for me, I would take him late in the first round. I would not take him mid to early first round. I don't think you can do that with the risk involved. If he falls to like 10th pick, maybe I would consider, but it's just the risk involved. For me this year, I don't think I want to deal with it. So if he's there, I'd probably just pivot to another player that I think has a similar upside and probably a higher floor without risk.
Yeah, I've seen him being taken at 4, and I think 4 is way too early. There's way too many guys that I would put in front of him at 4.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I could name 5 or 6 guys that I'm taking at 4 before him. Those are just those mock drafts, or maybe it's just a Giants fan, or maybe it's just someone who's like loves his thighs. I don't know. I don't want to get into it, but I'm not gonna get into it. But I just don't see why at 4th pick you take someone who has such a low floor like that, when there's guys whose floors like Derrick Henry, who I think has an insane floor this year, and Ezekiel Elliott, who also has a very high floor. There's guys like Aaron Jones at 7 or 8, Nick Chubb. I think those are 2 guys that I'm taking way before Barkley, like in a heartbeat. If I'm at 7 or 8 in a draft, do I consider Barkley? Oh, of course you do. But if you see a Chubb or an Aaron Jones there, I think it's boom, boom. You don't take Barkley there.
Yeah, I think Barkley's a hard fade for me. I'm not taking him in the first rounds. If he slips into the second round, it gets dicier. It kind of just depends on who's around there. Like I'll take, Travis Kelce probably won't be around the second round of any drafts, but like I would take Travis Kelce over him. I'd take any of the top 3 receivers, maybe even Calvin Ridley over him. I'm pretty high on Ridley. I would take probably all of the top 10 running backs over Barkley. Like I've dealt with my fair share of first round busts. I mean, you 2 know. I'll give the viewers a rundown too.
Yeah.
We're in this hometown league, right? And every year up until this year, I've gotten either the first or the second overall pick by some miracle, right? And first year, I take David Johnson. What was this, 2017?
Yeah, the year after. Yeah, 2017.
Yeah, 2017. So it was a year after he finished as like the RB1 or something like that. I don't know if he was that high. But I drafted him first overall. Breaks his hands, tries to come back, hurts himself again, played like 1.5 games that year. Next year, 2018, I have the second pick. I take Le'Veon Bell. Of course, all the reports are going, hey, he's not going to hold out. He might go into week 1. Does not play a single game. There goes my first round pick again. 2019, I got the first pick again. Take Alvin Kamara. I could have taken Barkley. I could have taken CMC. No, I take Kamara. Guy has a high ankle sprain, is crap all year.
Yeah.
Played like 10 games, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But he was not himself. And then last year, I took the man himself, Saquon Barkley. We all know what happened. He tore
we all know what happened there. Yeah.
After stinking in week 1. So needless to say, I know what I'm talking about when I'm telling you to draft safe in the first round. Please, I'm begging you, don't take Saquon Barkley in the first rounds. I mean, even if he was healthy, there are some risks there because that O-line is not good. All right. They tried to make a few tweaks to that O-line through the draft and all. I'm still not seeing any real improvement from what I've seen last year and the year before. And you might tell me, oh, well, he was still good in 2018, 2019, despite that bad O-line. Sure, but he had, Eli Manning dumping off the ball, 2 years ago. And that O-line, I would still rather get a guy with a solid O-line and like good opportunities to score and a good offense, because this Giants offense, even with the addition of Kenny Golladay, even as a Giants fan, I'm not a huge believer in Daniel Jones. I'll be honest, might anger my Giants fans out there, but this offense probably isn't going to be anywhere near the top 15 in the league, the top, half of the league. The scoring opportunities are not going to be there like some of these other elite running backs. And we've seen with elite running backs and like the guys finishing in the top 4 or 5, most, if not all of them, are on elite offenses. We've seen Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, who else? Christian McCaffrey. These are all like solid offenses, definitely better than the Giants offense. So, with Barkley, I'm really looking to fade him. I think the only way I take him is he slips into the second round. I can get him as my RB2. And even then I'm a little bit risky. I'll have to like stock up on my RBs just in case he, doesn't play. Cause everything I'm seeing is somewhere between week 1 and week 3, he'll come back, and he could be limited even beyond that into week 5, even more like week 6.
Yeah. And it's not like they're playing for a playoff spot, so they're not making any big pushes to win games.
Exactly. Like it's going to take Dallas, getting all these injuries again, or it's going to take Washington's defense not playing up to what we think they're going to play
for them to even have the slimmest of chances.
Thinking to let them walk into a playoff spot and play meaningful games late in the season too. So plus considering their defense is solid, but their offense isn't, they're still probably going to have some negative game scripts in there. which are not really going to be favorable to running backs.
Yeah,
Those
they're
are
definitely not fair,
heavy game
especially for
scripts.
Barkley. That's someone who they're probably going to be a little cautious with.
Yeah, there's just a
If they're
lot
losing
working
by 2
against
touchdowns,
Barkley
that
this
kind of
year.
stuff.
Yeah, and I'm just looking to stay away from that. I'm taking a lot of different guys over him. So
if Barkley falls and you decide to take him as your RB1, I think you really do have to implement that RB heavy strategy because
absolutely.
he will miss time in the beginning of the season. And even if he doesn't miss a lot of time, he won't be 100% at the beginning.
Yeah,
So
this is a serious injury.
I would say you would have to implement that RB heavy strategy.
All right, let's talk about those dark horse quarterbacks. Now, this is dark horse quarterbacks is not somebody as you take as your quarterback once. It's probably someone you stash on your bench, right? It's not a top 12 quarterback. It's maybe somewhere in between that quarterback 15 to that quarterback 25, somebody that stands out to you, someone who you're going to stash on your bench who might make a big factor for you. Like Nick F, one year you had Lamar Jackson as your dark horse quarterback. You stole him from me. You knew I loved him, and you took him in front of me, and I knew you were going to do it too. I was so mad. And that was the year
he ended up winning the league.
Yeah, that was that year he broke out for an amazing year, and he won you that league. He won leagues for that. Who do you think, or who's that quarterback that you guys are going to try and stash on your bench as your second quarterback? Who you think could have a ridiculous amount of production and could have a quarterback top 6 quarterback finish this year?
You can take this one.
For me, it's all about Trey Lance. I know I'm like a big fan of the Niners offense this year for some reason, but Trey Lance, man. When you go back and you look at because last year it was me who had the dark horse QB. I took Josh Allen in the 10th.
Yeah,
I see a lot of the same stuff in him, and I see a lot of the same stuff in Jalen Hurts. So I'll get to Hurts later. Nick might want to talk about Hurts, but for me, it's Trey Lance. He's looked great in training camp. He's been running with the ones. I don't really think Garoppolo is that good, to be honest with you. So I don't think it's going to take much for Lance to take over the starting role, possibly even week 1. I don't think we should rule out the possibility that he could start week 1. This is another dual threat QB with a cannon of an arm. What more is there to say? He's got Ayuk there. He's got George Kittle there. He's got Debo there. He's got a solid run game. He's got a great O-line, great defense. This is just a perfect situation for a rookie quarterback. And just given the fact that he's a dual threat guy who can really just put up numbers with his arm, I love Trey Lance in the late rounds. And I think if he starts too, I love George Kittle. And I think it puts him as the number 2 for me because Trey Lance tight end usage in college was off the charts. This guy targeted tight ends on like 50% of his touchdown throws. I just think it elevates all of his receivers. But give me Trey Lance late in drafts. I will take him as my backup quarterback with insane potential.
Yeah, and Shanahan, he loves to run that ball. So for him to have another threat now, to have that option play for him,
we're going to see a lot of option plays.
You're already going to see a lot of run from that offense. You already will. It's the 49ers. It's he loves to run that ball. Giving Trey Lance to be able to pull the ball back and run the other way, I think that's going to be a dimension or an aspect and threat that he's going to want to test out. He's definitely going to test out this year. Just when he does that is the real question. And if he does that week 2, week 3, I think he's a great option for that dark horse quarterback, someone you put on your bench.
All right. So if we're talking dark horse quarterbacks, I would take a shot on Tua this year. So I think he takes a step. He had pretty much a below average year last year. First year in the league, it happens. Still, I believe he's still recovering from that hip injury. That's all behind him now. Last year, hip injury, all that behind him. He looks good in camp. He has all the weapons he can ask for. Will Fuller, I expect him to be the wide receiver 1 on that team. Devontae Parker, showing flashes of talent. Jalen Waddle, rookie, speed. He'll be a weapon on that team.
Mike Gesicki.
He's
not talked about enough. I love Mike Gesicki.
Mike Gesicki, a great late round tight end to take this year. And it's an improved O-line. I like Brian Flores as a coach. I think Tua has everything he needs to take a step this year.
Yeah, I don't hate the Tua pick. I'm not as high on Tua as you are, not nearly. I just didn't see enough last year to make me think that he could be a top 12 QB in terms of fantasy production. But I think it's this year. If it doesn't happen this year, it's not going to happen for Tua. I mean, he's got all the weapons he could ask for. I do like Jalen Waddle. I think he's a decent late round pick. He was going a little early for me in all the mocks that I did. Like he was going a little bit earlier than all the other like late round receivers, so I was kind of staying away. But I think he's got electrifying speed. I know that foot injury is still kind of bothering him a little bit, which makes me nervous. But again, Tua's got all the weapons he could ask for. That O-line seems to be a little bit improved. It's still kind of terrible. Is another issue, but I feel like that's going to hamper the run game a little bit more than it will Tua. So if he can put it all together, props to him. He could probably turn around and be a borderline QB1, maybe even better. I'm just not so sure that I see it, but go ahead and target him late. He's going to go pretty much undrafted, so there's really no risk in taking a guy like Tua.
Yeah. Well, you know I like Trey Lance too, so I let you have that one.
Yeah, fair enough. And another guy I was going to say, I mentioned Jalen Hurts. I put up on our breakout post. We both had Jalen Hurts on the list, and a couple of comments talking about his accuracy, problems with accuracy. They don't know if he's going to be a legitimate starter in the league. For me, it reminds me a lot of Josh Allen a couple of years ago. Another guy who had a lot of questions with his arm talent. Is he going to be accurate? I threw up some stats in the comments too. Jalen Hurts in the 4 games last year had a 51.9 completion percentage. Josh Allen his whole rookie year had 52.8. And we see what Josh Allen was able to do. He was able to turn it around. And I think with Jalen Hurts, with this new coaching staff coming in, you bring in Devontae Smith. Dallas Goedert's looking to take a step potentially, even though Zach Ertz is still there. They improve these receivers. Jalen Reagor's take another year. Don't forget about Travis Fulgham. I love me some Travis Fulgham. Travie Patty over there, okay? I had him on one of my teams last year. And for like 5 or 6 games, he was insane. So don't forget about Travis Fulgham. This is an improved receiving core. This is an improved team offense overall. So I do like Jalen Hurts. I mean, dual threat quarterbacks are the move in fantasy football. Everybody knows that. You got to go dual threat. If you don't go dual threat, I don't know what you're doing. So I think Jalen Hurts is good value. He's going as like the QB 12. I think he could smash that.
Yeah, I think Jalen Hurts is should be drafted as a top 10 quarterback. I mean, just the rushing upside for quarterbacks.
Yep.
With him, especially, it's a cheat code in fantasy football.
Yeah, he was on pace.
I think he's a lock to be a top 10 quarterback if he starts for the whole season.
Yeah, I agree with that. I saw a stat. He was on pace in those 4 games, the pace that he was at, to break Lamar Jackson's rushing total from his MVP season by like 150 yards. Like he would smash that. He had the most rush attempts in those 4 games out of any quarterback in the league. This is a guy who's going to use his legs, and he's going to use them like often.
Yeah.
So I think if he can turn around that arm talent, because I honestly don't think he's as bad of a passer as those 4 games suggested. We've seen a lot out of training camp of him connecting with Quez Watkins, another late round receiver.
Yeah.
Connecting with Devontae Smith, connecting with Jalen Reagor, connecting with his tight ends. I mean, we've seen that he's like to use his tight ends in preseason.
Yeah.
I think if he can lean on those playmakers and they can break out, he's in for a top 5 season. I wouldn't rule out a top 5 season from Jalen Hurts.
All right, let's say you're in a bigger league. Let's say you're in like a 12-man or maybe even a 14-man. I know there's a handful of those out there. Is someone like Zach Wilson, Sam Darnold now in Carolina, is that Deshaun Watson? Are those 3 guys that maybe you look at in bigger leagues, like a 12 or 14-man league? Is that someone who might be a dark horse quarterback in a 12 or 14 league? Do you guys see the production, or do you see value in taking a guy like Zach Wilson? I think he could have a great year on the Jets. I think Darnold and Robbie Anderson are back together in Carolina. Who knows how that could play out. And Deshaun Watson plays. We all know Deshaun Watson can play football. We all know he knows how to throw that football. Are those 3 guys that maybe you look at as potential options in bigger leagues?
So of those 3 guys, I don't think Watson's going to play this year. I don't think it's going to happen. But for Arnold and Wilson, I think they're great QB3 option in super flex and 2 quarterback leagues.
Yeah.
Because they offer in those types of leagues, for your third quarterback, you kind of want someone with upside who can smash their ADP. I think Darnold and Wilson are perfect examples of that, especially in those kinds of leagues. I think if you can later in the draft, when you're looking for your third quarterback, I think they're perfect options.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Zach Wilson could have a decent amount of value. Just being a rookie quarterback, it's in a pretty poor offense like the Jets. Scares me a little bit. but I think we've seen from him in college, he's got the legs. He can make plays on the grounds. He's got a pretty decent arm. I think Corey Davis is a sleeper guy. I like Corey Davis in the late rounds, so I think that connection is going to be solid. So I wouldn't be afraid to take him definitely in super flex leagues. Definitely take him in super flex leagues. I think even in like 12, I would not necessarily 12 team leagues, maybe 14, 16, like these plus size leagues.
Yeah.
I would definitely take him for the bench. I think who are the other ones you said? Watson. I don't think Watson's going to play. I kind of agree with that.
Yeah.
I think again in a super flex league, take him for your bench because if he does end up playing, everybody's going to be on the waiver looking for Deshaun Watson. He was the QB like 5 or 6 last year.
Yeah, it's something crazy. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we know this guy can play football. So if he's on the field, it's definitely going to be top option, no matter what team he's playing for. But I wouldn't really look at him too much. Another guy I haven't seen much of because I know now Andy Dalton came out with his comments about how it's his year. Justin Fields, he looked really good in preseason, really good in preseason. I think should he see the field, his name's Fields. It's kind of funny. Should he see the field? I think he could turn into some top 10 production. The question is, will he see the field this year?
And don't count out Mitch, man. Don't count out Mitch. I saw Tariq Cohen post on today, like Mitch is my guy, like Mitch is my quarterback.
He's in
like
Buffalo now. He's not starting. He's got Josh Allen in front of him. But, hey, even Mitch Trubisky, when he was starting, he was not a bad.
He wasn't a bad quarterback.
That's the thing. People don't understand the difference between reality and fantasy.
He was a terrible quarterback. Let's be real here.
Yeah, there's some bad quarterbacks.
Really bad quarterback.
Turn into some good fantasy
wise. If a guy like Mitch Trubisky on the Bears was a decent fantasy option, a guy like Justin Fields, who dual threat quarterback that we talked about, he's somebody who could have an even much better year than Trubisky did in Chicago for sure. Don't even get me started how much better he can be than Mitch Trubisky. But he's somebody who is definitely could be slated to be one of those dark horse quarterbacks.
Yeah. So I think in deep leagues he's another guy you want to target.
But the issue is a lot of people are taking Fields over Trey Lance, and I think
can't happen.
We both agree that it's just maybe Fields is a better talent right now, but Lance is in a significantly better situation. So I think it's just a no-brainer that Lance should be taken over Fields.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Lance should be one of the first QB2s off the board, pretty much. He should probably be the first rookie QB outside of Trevor Lawrence to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely think you should be taking him over Fields, over Wilson, over these guys. He should be going earlier than I've seen him going. So don't be afraid to reach a little bit. I mean, it's the last couple of rounds of the draft. Don't be afraid to reach a little bit on a guy like Trey Lance, who could potentially win you your league. So if you're not coming out of there with a top 5 QB, grab Trey Lance.
All right, and that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in to Breeze Fantasy Football. This is Fantasy Football for you, made easy breezy.
Thanks, guys.